So I have the great pleasure of introducing Shannon Lessard. I first met Shannon about a little more than a year ago when one of our faculty members, Jeremy Qualls, was leaving town, and so I sort of inherited her from Jeremy because I took over the makerspace as well as the maker class. And lucky for me, Shannon had already taken the class, and so she knew all about what was going on in there, even though I did not know that much at the time. So Shannon was one of the student assistants in the Makerspace lab for last semester when I was first teaching this class. And we started talking, and I was giving her advice, and so we were trying to figure out what she needed to do to graduate, and it turned out she needed to start her project actually last semester, not just this semester, in order to get all the units that she needed. And so since she wanted to become a high school physics teacher, we hit on this idea that she should just dive right in, and matched her up with Petaluma High School. And it was a very successful project, and I'm going to let her tell you about it, but I'm just so proud of her and all the work that she's done. Have a pocket somewhere, put that in the pocket.
Nope. Thank you, Dr. Kaminsky. So as you can kind of see, mine's a little bit different than some of the research ones that you've just seen a half hour ago. So I'm going to be talking about Dream, Make, Innovate, which is the name of our makerspace here on campus. And I wanted to incorporate it into a high school learning environment. So let me back up a little bit. When I first got here 4 years ago, I took a class called Science 120, which is a hands-on learning experience that deals with the watershed and innovative ways to help our environment. The following year, I took Science 220, which is Dream, Make, Innovate. Hands-on learning, 3D printing, laser cutting, whole 9 yards. And I'm like, this is super cool. I want to see what I can do and make it accessible to everybody. And I'm like, well, I really want to be a teacher. So as I was TAing the following semester with Dr. Kaminsky with the Makerspace, I'm like, I could really do this. I could see myself doing this. So with that, let me begin. So SONOMA and Petaluma have their own mission statements, and I wanted to see what was overlapping. So our mission statements basically want us, the students here, to develop schools, critical thinking, analysis, hands-on learning as an overall person. Petaluma has most of these. I just wanted to incorporate it more. They want to challenge their students with real-world examples, lots of rigorous activities, and become an overarching better person. I could see kind of the disconnect, so I'm like, well, let's see if hands-on learning will make a difference. So I did 3 projects over the course of a year. We have a 3D augmented reality sandbox, a Bluetooth chicken coop door, yes, I know, quite glamorous, and ASB lights, Associated Student Body. So I'm going to talk about the ASB lights and the chicken coop door just a little bit. So the chicken coop was taking students into a real-world example. We have an elder senior citizen living community about a half a block away from the high school, and the ladies there really didn't want to go out at 10 p.m. to lock up the chickens at night to make sure they were all cozy and safe in their bed. So we created a app for the phone where you could go out, press it, and the door would close nice and slow so the chickens could go to bed. And the ASB light took all of physics, so basically a protein powder. We cut a hole in the back, and we unscrewed the top, and we put a latex surface on it, or like a balloon, and we turned it around to face the base of a speaker. And so as it vibrated, we had a little mirror on the top and lasers that pointed at it. So when it reflected off, it created different patterns on the walls with the lasers due to the frequencies. So DMI started because of Dr. Kaminsky saying, why don't you work with these high school kids? And I'm like, well, that works. And Petaluma High wanting more rigorous activities to engage students of all different backgrounds. And that's what we decided to do. So we wanted to challenge young minds all throughout, and we wanted the higher level of education. So I spent 30 to 40 Mondays of my life from 3 to 4 in the afternoon with these high school students, which was a lot of time, and I got really close to them, which was really cool to see them grow and progress over time. So I worked with freshmen to seniors, which was kind of interesting because most of the time Seniors always think that they're the top dogs of the school and freshmen are kind of fresh meat wandering around. So we got to see the skills of the seniors and of the freshmen meld together quite nicely. We also got to work on things such as technological skills and woodworking, things that students really hadn't been able to do a whole lot of in their life. So I want to draw attention to some of the quotes too. These were things that they've learned over the course of the year, and you'll see them throughout the presentation here. So students can get critical thinking skills, communication, college level projects, and personal growth, which I thought would be huge. I learned a lot of these skills my sophomore year of college, not my sophomore year of high school. So I thought this was a unique opportunity where they could dive in with a project, learn, come up with challenges, and figure out results of how to navigate their way through it. So the one that I really want to talk about, that was the really cool one for me, was the augmented 3D sandbox. So this was a multi-step process that wasn't just cutting a protein powder container and putting a balloon on it. This included building the sandbox, it included building a computer from scratch, and coding the whole thing. So we had to work in a certain time frame, and we had a lot of challenges because there was fires going on and people had random days off, and there was this thing called spring break in the middle. It was weird. So we used this YouTube video as a base example to start with. So it starts with, here's the code and here's what you can do. So we wanted to enhance the learning of these students and the school overall, which was really cool. So the students went home after all of their honors and AP classes that they were taking to do extra research to figure out the best design for this project and how they could accomplish it. So then afterwards, we got to break them up into teams. So one was purely with coding and the other one was hands-on, building the sandbox. And that's just how we started, because we're like, well, you have the skills for this and you have the skills for this, so it makes a little bit more sense. And it did for a while, until we realized that we needed everybody on one project and everybody on another, because I only had 6 students. So completing the project, we had to, like I said, build a computer. They came in actually on a Sunday to build this. I don't even know if I would have done that. So they had to assemble a complete projector. They also had to build the sandbox and code the entire thing. So we had the projector, the sandbox, and an Xbox 360, which basically computed the whole thing with the technology from the gaming system. So this was the progress over time. It starts with us trying to figure out what to do with the sandbox with our little straight edge ruler. And then we realized we needed a table saw, and we were very lucky that no one got to chop off their fingers that day, until it finally came to the final product, where this is the day before the science symposium, where they're assembling wheels, and it was really cool because everyone got to sign their names underneath it afterwards. So challenges that arose was obviously the time management. I only got to work with them on Mondays, and they came in whenever they could, sometimes their lunch break. But it was really hard to keep them on task, because they're like cats running around, and keep them focused on the project and not have the energy die. So that was one thing. Another issue was the equipment and materials. Because they're learning, they messed up a lot, which was okay, because that's the whole process. But we had to keep getting new materials and figuring out ways to improve it and what to do here and there. So that was really hard. Another part was just overcoming the challenges they have of not knowing how to do things. A lot of them went on YouTube to figure things out and then would come back the next day and work on it, and that was wrong, so they had to do it again. And then the time management, like I said, was super difficult to deal with. As you can see right here, we have a rusted blade, and that was one of the pieces of equipment, so everything turned out really, really wonky. It overheated, and like I said, we were lucky no fingers got chopped that day. But we really had to reevaluate our equipment we were using. So my hopes for the future is to take the progress that we've done of basically starting this DMI club, Dream, Make, Innovate, and have it keep going. I know the teacher there, Mr. Brazil, is very on board with this entire project and is very willing to continue with this, but I'm hoping students like myself who are very interested in teaching will step forward and want to learn with the students, learn how to teach, learn how to overcome challenges, and what to do. So we want to make this also very desirable for high school students to come in, because this is a huge resume builder. Not only do they get to know these new skills, but they get to brag about doing a project. So as you can see in this picture, this was a science symposium with all of my students. There are 4 represented, plus their teacher, Mr. Brazil, with our almost completely working sandbox in the background. We made the sandbox, and up here we have the projector and the Xbox 360. The only thing we had to do was compute it all. At 10 o'clock the night before, we realized sleep was really important, and this could be done within a few hours when we had a few more brain cells to work with the next day. So I want to improve for the future. The students that attend, because we only had 6, it made everything a little bit more challenging, but it was overall really, really good. We also want to figure out how to speed up and utilize our time a little bit more efficiently. So I now know that I really want to be a high school teacher, because this was probably the most fun experience I've ever had here, which is saying something. So I've had a lot of great experiences, but working with these students was just super rewarding, and I loved it. I also really loved the challenge that it bestowed upon me of not knowing where this would go and just kind of jumping into the deep end. So that was super, super amazing. And kind of learning the out-of-the-box thinking method a little bit more. Like, I've taken the Makerspace class and I've done all of these really cool things, but having it implemented with, here you go, here's a problem, what do I do? So we got to figure it out together, which was really nice. So special thanks to Petaluma and all of their students. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions? Yes.
So you did the door, the automatic door for the retirement community?
Yes.
So you kind of blended with did a community service, which is pretty awesome. That was my question number 1. Question number 2, I'm embarrassed to say, I don't know what an augmented sandbox is.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So I actually had a picture and I didn't talk about it. So this was a still frame from the YouTube video that we based it off of. So it's a topographical mapping. So the sand underneath is super, super reflective, and the Xbox software that it has couples with the projector, and as the topography of the stand moves, you get something that's super low, so it would be blue, and then as you raise things up, you get something that's green, yellow, and red for super, super high. So this is basically mountain ranges. This would be very, very easy to tell how islands are formed, or how land masses evolve over time, or even a road. So this would be highly beneficial in geology classes for one, but in other sciences as well. You're welcome. Anything else?
Okay. Victor Brazil, you said you were working with him, and the experience. Is he going to run DMI next year? I mean,
if no other Sonoma State student steps forward and wants to work with them, he will solely take over and do this. I have only 2 seniors actually, which is really nice. So I've got 4 that are very, very ready to come back next year.
So we need to be recruiting, right?
Yes.
That's fantastic. All right, let's thank you.